Gigamates, and welcome to our channel. Today, we're taking a trip down under, but not just to see the kangaroos and koalas. We're winding back the clock to explore the incredible and sometimes controversial history of Australia. So grab a cuppa, get comfy, and let's dive into the story of the land of sun, sand, and sweeping plains. Our story begins a very, very long time ago. We're talking at least 65,000 years. This is when the first people, the ancestors of today's Aboriginal Australians, are believed to have arrived on the continent. Now, how did they get there? The world looked a bit different back then. Sea levels were much lower, and a land bridge connected Asia and Australia, forming a supercontinent called Sahul. These early pioneers were incredibly skilled hunter-gatherers, adapting to a harsh and changing environment. They spread across the entire continent, from the tropical north to the arid deserts of the interior, developing one of the oldest living cultures on Earth. This culture is rich with complex social systems, spiritual beliefs known as the dreaming or dream time, and a deep, profound connection to the land. They created stunning rock art, passed down stories through generations, and managed the landscape with sophisticated techniques like firestick farming. For tens of thousands of years, this was their world, a continent of hundreds of distinct nations and languages, all thriving in relative isolation. Fast forward to the 1600s, and a new group of people start appearing on the horizon. Dutch navigator Willem Janszoon is credited as the first European to make a documented landing in 1606. Over the next century and a half, other European explorers, mostly Dutch, charted parts of the western, northern, and southern coastlines. They called this vast, mysterious land New Holland. But for the most part, they weren't too impressed. The reports they sent back described a dry, inhospitable place, and European interest remained pretty low. That is, until a certain British Royal Navy captain sailed into view. In 1770, Lieutenant James Cook, aboard HMS Endeavour, sailed up the entire eastern coast of Australia. He meticulously mapped the coastline, documenting the plants, animals, and people he encountered. Unlike the Dutch, Cook saw potential. He claimed the entire eastern portion for the British Crown and named it New South Wales. His glowing reports of a fertile land reached Britain at a very convenient time. The American Revolutionary War had just ended, and Britain could no longer send its convicts to the American colonies. They desperately needed a new place to establish a penal colony, and Cook's New South Wales seemed like the perfect solution. And so, in 1788, the First Fleet, a convoy of 11 ships carrying over 1,400 people, including more than 700 convicts, arrived at Botany Bay. Finding the bay unsuitable, Captain Arthur Phillip, the first governor of the colony, moved the settlement a short distance north to a stunning natural harbor he named Sydney Cove, after the British Home Secretary, Lord Sydney. On January 26th, a date now controversially celebrated as Australia Day, the British flag was raised, marking the beginning of permanent European settlement. Life for these first settlers was incredibly tough. They were thousands of miles from home, in an unfamiliar and often unforgiving environment. Food was scarce, supplies were limited, and they knew very little about the land they were now trying to tame. They struggled to grow crops and were constantly on the verge of starvation. For the Aboriginal people of the Sydney region, the Eora, the arrival of the British was a catastrophe. The newcomers brought with them diseases like smallpox, to which the indigenous population had no immunity, wiping out an estimated 90% of the local population. Competition for land and resources led to conflict, and a long and tragic period of dispossession and violence began. Despite the brutal beginnings, the colony of New South Wales slowly began to grow. More convicts arrived, and free settlers started to make the long journey, lured by the promise of cheap land. The key to the colony's economic survival turned out to be wool. John MacArthur and his wife Elizabeth were pioneers in breeding Spanish merino sheep, whose fine wool was in high demand by the booming textile mills of Britain. The wool boom fueled exploration and expansion, as settlers, known as squatters, pushed further and further inland, claiming vast tracts of land for their sheep stations. This relentless expansion, of course, came at a great cost to the Aboriginal population, who have pushed off their traditional lands, their way of life shattered. By the mid-19th century, The face of Australia was changing rapidly. The transportation of convicts to the eastern colonies ceased by 1853, and the population was becoming dominated by free immigrants. Then, in 1851, something happened that would change everything. Gold was discovered. First in New South Wales, and then in the newly formed colony of Victoria, the gold rush was on. People from all over the world, including Britain, Ireland, Europe, America, and China, flocked to the goldfields, hoping to strike it rich. The population exploded. Melbourne, the gateway to the Victorian goldfields, transformed from a small town into a bustling, wealthy metropolis almost overnight. The gold rush brought immense wealth, but also social tension, particularly directed at the Chinese miners, which led to riots and the first anti-immigration laws. As the 19th century drew to a close, the 6 separate British colonies on the continent New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, and Tasmania started to think about uniting. They shared a common language, culture, and a growing sense of a unique Australian identity. After years of debates and referendums, a constitution was drafted. On January 1st, 1901, the colonies federated to become the Commonwealth of Australia. The new nation was born, with a federal parliament established in Melbourne, before later moving to the purpose-built capital of Canberra. However, this new nation was founded on the principle of a white Australia. The Immigration Restriction Act of 1901 was one of the first pieces of legislation passed by the new parliament, effectively banning non-European immigration for decades. Aboriginal people were largely excluded from citizenship and the rights that came with it. The 20th century tested the young nation in profound ways. Australian soldiers fought and died alongside the British in World War I, and the landing at Gallipoli in 1915 became a defining moment in the national psycho story of bravery and sacrifice that helped forge a distinct Australian identity known as the ANZ legend. The Great Depression hit Australia hard, followed by the immense challenge of World War II. The fall of Singapore in 1942 and the bombing of Darwin shattered the belief that Britain could protect Australia, forcing the nation to turn towards the United States as its primary ally. After the war, Australia's government realized the country needed to populate or perish. The White Australia policy was gradually dismantled, and a massive post-war immigration program was launched, bringing millions of people from Europe and later from the Middle East and Asia. This wave of migration transformed Australia from a predominantly Anglo-Celtic society into one of the most multicultural nations on Earth. This diversity has enriched every aspect of Australian life, from its food and culture to its economy and society. The latter half of the 20th century was also a period of major social change. In a landmark 1967 referendum, over 90% of Australians voted to amend the Constitution to count Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the census and allow the federal government to make laws for them. This was a crucial step towards recognizing the rights of Indigenous Australians, though the struggle for land rights, recognition, and reconciliation continues to this day. In 2008, Prime Minister Kevin Rudd delivered a formal national apology to the stolen generations, though, thousands of Indigenous children who were forcibly removed from their families by the government. And that brings us to the Australia we know today, a vibrant, modern, and multicultural nation with a complex and layered history. It's a story of ancient cultures and new arrivals, of hardship and prosperity, of conflict and reconciliation. It's a story that is still being written as Australians continue to grapple with their past and navigate their future in an ever-changing world. From the ancient dreaming to the bustling modern cities, the history of Australia is a truly epic tale. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Let us know in the comments what piece of Australian history you find most fascinating. Until next time, cheers.